See you. It is that time again when I bring you information about the Norman invasion of France. No. I am going to talk with you about Bitcoin today. Um, it should really come as no surprise to any of you that Bitcoin is continuing to mean revert to the 3012 RMLR on the daily time frame. Why? Well, because it's in mean reversion to that RMLR. Hello, kitty. Yes, good cat. I've been telling you for some days that it would enter the RMLR mean reversion probably starting Saturday, confirmed, after not touching that third band to the downside of that 3012 RMLR for 2 days in a row. Meaning Thursday and Friday, it stopped touching that third band to the downside. Meaning Saturday, the mean reversion would be properly in progress, most probably confirmed to be in progress. Of course, you could front run it and take you know, the lower probability that was in progress already before, but even if not, by Saturday, you certainly could have begun using that third band to the downside as your guidepost for take profits on any shorts, and use the RMLR itself as your target for longs. Of course, it can run up higher than that, right? Once it hits it, it can cross over it. It very likely will, because it won't just hit it and bounce down unless the indicators are that way. But right, very likely it will hit it and run through it, at least a little bit. But yeah, it's a good profit-taking area anyway, because once the asset reverts to the mean, then it's going to do the one thing it does. It's going to distribute away from the mean, because the price will just follow the returns. And all the returns are going to do are distribute away from the means of returns and mean reverts to the mean of returns. And the price action just follows, which is why price action is random most of the time, except when it's in trend, because it's really just following whatever the returns are doing most of the time, right? Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it does. When it doesn't, guess what happens? It causes a divergence. Guess how you can tell if there's a divergence being called? Right? You look at the returns oscillator, and you look at whether or not there's a divergence being built. This is information that you can get for free even with the alpha laser returns oscillator, which shows you whether or not there's a divergence being built using the alpha laser returns indicator. Right? So you are constantly either trading something that is moving in continuance or trading something that is moving in divergence. Those are the two states, right? And the divergence can be hidden or cannot be hidden. Right? It can be strong, weak, medium, whatever. But you got weak and hidden divergence, you got bull divergence, you got bear divergence, and you got strong, medium, and weak. But the two states of the asset, right, are random walk or trending, and also continuance or divergence in terms of the returns. Right? It's not that simple. There's easy ways to split this thing up. It's simple. It's that simple, right? There are relatively easy ways to split this up. I'm being distracted here by a lot of real world distractions. lots of limbs coming down here. Tree limbs. A wood chipper will be coming around and turning this stuff into very finely chipped wood soon. A lot of these trees have been getting haircuts. Eucalyptus trees, by the way, here in northern Israel. There's a lot of eucalyptus trees. Fun fact, about 100 years ago or so, when people were coming to Israel before it was called Israel again, before it was reestablished as a country. When settlers were coming here to settle, or to resettle and reestablish the land as the homeland for the Jewish people, there were a lot of swamps, especially in the north of Israel, especially around the Jezreel Valley. And as a result, one solution was to drain the swamp. Not even kidding. It was one of the big projects of that era was literally to drain the swamp. And one of the ways that they did that was to plant a lot of trees. Why would planting trees help you drain the swamp? Well, planting trees helps you drain the swamp precisely because trees drink a lot of water. And the more water a tree drinks, the more it can help you drain the swamp. And it turns out eucalyptus trees drink a ton of water. I don't know, some roadman. I don't know what you're writing there, Mata, but hello, welcome to you. Seems like a lot of word salad. I don't know if you're a real person or a bot, but okay. Welcome anyway. So Bitcoin did what I told you it would do, which is it would continue mean reverting. And like I said before, do not be surprised if there are some downward moves along the way on the upward mean reversion. Currently, it's upward, right? Do not be surprised if there's a little bit of downward movement. If you look at the intraday time frames, you will always see downward movement on like the 1 minute or the 15 minute or whatever, right? It's not like every single candle goes up, right? There's still plenty of opportunity for shorts. Just there's always plenty of opportunities for longs. It's a matter of getting in the right trade and getting out in profit. I love walking along finely and freshly made eucalyptus tree mulch, chipped tree mulch, leaves and branches and all that stuff. Right, so you can expect to see more upward movement as long as it continues to mean revert to the upside. But that also means that you can see nice little dips along the way on the lower time frames for quick scalps to the downside. Now, if I know the propensity of the day is that it's going to go up, am I going to put more risk, or am I going to put all my capital at risk on a short? No. Right? At most, I'll put 20, 25%, 30 if I'm feeling crazy, right? Usually not 30, it's too much. And I'm not going to, when I say I'm going to put it at risk, I'm not putting it with leverage, yeah? I'm putting it with no leverage, and I get out of the trade very quickly, right? And to the upside, yes, I'll put my full capital that's on my trading account for the purpose of that, and whatever amount that I'm willing to trade on a particular asset, I'll put the whole amount on that. If it's the propensities to the upside, then I'll go to the upside with the full amount. If the propensity was to the downside, then I would go to the downside. And when I say the propensity, I mean the overwhelming majority of the probabilities favor one direction or the other. I don't care what the direction is. I just care that the overwhelming mathematical probabilities favor one direction or the other. You wrote, you definitely sound like, I mean, it's weird the way you're writing. You're writing like a bot, just throwing out random word salad. I don't know what your point is, but okay. Thank you for participating. So the point is, right, you don't just randomly throw random amounts of capital at a trade, right? What you do is you calculate the mathematical quantifiable edge, right, that you have on the trade, And you know that by looking at the probabilities of where the acid is between the probability bands, for instance. At the normal distribution probability bands, the Laplace probability bands, you don't have to sit there and do math. It's right there in front of your face on the indicators. But you calculate it. In other words, you let the indicators do their work and you read the numbers, or you know the numbers, because that's what they are, right? And then you see, okay, it's got a 68.3% probability of not closing above this area. It's got a 95.5 probability, of not closing above or below this area. It's got a 99.7% probability of not closing above this area. Then you know your probabilities, right? And then you look at the information, right? All in all, what's it telling you? What's the RMLR indicating to you on not just the daily time frame, but on the lower time frames as well? What's happening down on the 4 hour? What's happening down on the 90 minute? What's happening down on the 15 minute? Just like you would do with all the other VEPS information. So yes, you need to look at information flowing across time frames. That is the work of trading. Being able to know that what's happening on the lower time frames affects what happens on the higher time frames, and knowing that what happens on the lower time frames is part of the picture, the bigger picture of the higher time frames, and that the higher time frames have more quote unquote weight in the sense that there's more time per candle, so there's generally a bigger range of motion on any given candle. Not always, but usually. And so, although bigger candles appear to give you bigger returns over time, the fact is you can stack more wins by trading on lower time frames. Because if a candle is bouncing back and forth, let's say a candle is ranging, I don't know, on a few $100s back and forth for several hours. It's very tight. It's just, relatively tight on Bitcoin. It's not even 1%. It's like moving 0.5% back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for hours at a time, right? Some weekend or just a slow weekday. You can stack up wins up and down, up and down, up and down all day like that. Versus if you were just to leave that one trade on for the day, if you're lucky, you would get the win moving one way or the other on that one trade, right? But you don't rely on that because that's not enough to just count on luck, right? You can't just rely on luck. It won't work for you. Because some people are lucky. Yeah, some people may be lucky. Or they may appear to be lucky. But nobody's lucky at everything. Okay? At some point, you need to work with the known information or the knowable information, which the VEPS gives you the ability to know. And it's not just knowable information, it is leading information, right? It's really the information that's out front that will take you to your destination first. I highly recommend it. Reminds me of a poem, a short poem. A poem by the poet Shin Shalom. She was a poet, a translator, a writer. She once wrote a poem called Wonder of Wanderer. goes like this. So many stars in sky and darkness around. So many tears fill eyes and dry the path. So flaming mountains of yearning, stormy clouds. And I am called to carry all on my narrow shoulders. That's often what I feel like when I'm telling people about the VEPs. Right? There are so many stars in the sky. There are so many assets to trade and so many traders in the market. And darkness around, right? The unknown. What do I do? Where do I enter? Where do I exit? So many tears fill eyes, right? So many traders get wrecked, or many cry from joy, but mostly they get wrecked. So, and dry the path, right? They make way for new traders to come in and mostly get wrecked. So flaming mountains of yearning, right? There's an endless range, not just of divs or divergences, creating hope among traders. Most of them don't know where the real divs are, but they are hoping to get the next best trade. Right? Stormy clouds. Stormy clouds is exactly right. It's uncertainty. And I am called to carry all on my narrow shoulders. Right? As the teacher, I have to support those who do not have the ability to support themselves. I have to support their educational learning process to make sure that they are able to get to the next level without getting wrecked. And so there you have it. A little bit of a poem there for you by Shin Shalom. What a poet. Bet you didn't think that you'd be hearing that this morning on the old Sunshine Bitcoin Report. There you have it. The Sunshine Bitcoin Report live, coming to you live from the Middle East, from the war-torn region of northern Israel, where life goes on, despite the battles raging to the north and the south and the east and the northeast and the southwest. We kind of have battles all around in this country. It is crazy. Sure would be nice if some of them would stop. For now, we kind of theoretically have a bit more quiet up here, I am pleased to say. Haven't had any air raid sirens in a couple of weeks since the ceasefire went into effect. And it lets me focus more on trading without constantly being interrupted. So yay for that. Hopefully we'll have more of that. More relative peace and quiet. And I wish you all good and peaceful and happy lives and days. And hope to see you again in the next one. Peace.